Hello, welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it Dealing with the Loss of a Loved One. Of course, the loved one could be, a human being, could be a pet, a relationship, meaning that breakup of relationship, or the death of a body, whatever the case may be. Now, first of all, I want to be very conscious with this video. And you may or may not be ready for the information that is being shared in these videos. And I want you to know that if for some reason life brought you to listen to this information, to know that I am honoring and respecting whatever you're feeling or you may be going through. So this is not about telling you how to, because in reality these videos are not how-to videos. I'm just pointing to something that might have been overlooked, which actually you could say that every single human being has overlooked it by believing that they are this body, this person we claim ourselves to be, right? And we have already explored that in these videos. This is what this is all about, to know who you are. So, dealing with the loss of a loved one really has to do with when I believe that I'm a separate individual, then of course I hang on to things. I am attaching to the interpretation that the mind makes of everything. This is mine, I need you, without you I can live, or whatever. And all that belongs only to the seeming character. When I know who I am, I'm not attached to anything because I know what I am. Simultaneously, I know what everything is. So, dealing with the loss of a loved one in reality is dealing with the thoughts that are appearing right now, which I am using to keep holding on to my sense of identity. This is what we're always dealing with. That's it. So, when I know who I am, all the problems dissolve. Why? Because the problems are only for the character, not for the consciousness, not for who or what I am. What I am simply is. And now, when I know who I am, if someone makes a transition, because I'm already knowing the fact that we are this ever-present energy, whatever you want to call it, it's not necessarily that I could not miss the company of that person, but there's no suffering because I know that that person, which is not a person per se, not myself, is simply the vast field of energy, of love, what you want to call, that has made the transition from form to formless. But I already know what I am, and therefore what I'm saying is that there is no suffering. There may be sometimes a thought that comes up that may say, God, I miss being with that person. You see? Now, even someone who knows about this, again, it all depends how strongly are we identified with our sense of self. Because I can know this information intellectually, but then when we lose someone that we seem to have an affinity, a strong attachment without realizing it, because again, I can talk about this all I want, but then when something happens that challenged my experience, that's when I really know if this is being integrated or not. You see, once again, I'm not saying that tears may not come up. I am not saying that sometimes feelings that the mind will label sadness would come up. All the things can come up, but they're seen as movement that are seen, that are lived, but then they can be let go. When somebody doesn't know who they are, you see, when we're so attached to our sense of identity, our thinking process, the grieving process, the suffering can last for decades, for years, for God knows. But when you know who you are, then everything is just a passing movement, a movement of energy. And sometimes there's sensations that seems to be attributed to a relationship, and sometimes there are sensations that seems to be attributed to the loss of relationship. But in the end, if we see that we are, then whatever sensation that comes in, whether I am in a relationship or with someone and I'm feeling something, or whether that person is no longer there and feelings may come up, they're both seen as movement of energy, and then they have the space to continue on, you see, and to move on. Just to see that I'm not speaking esoterically here, because it's very easy to talk about this, conceptually, but really, again, what is the proof of this? Well, there's plenty of it. There's one lady by the name of Yolanda Duran Serrano, and she was, someone like any one of us who has a regular life and regular job or whatever, and she had a 19-year-old son, okay? And prior to what I'm about to tell you, she had a shift in consciousness. I don't know what you call it. It's not something that she seeked for. She didn't know anything about spirituality whatsoever. She doesn't know about any of those things. All she knows is that one day she was home and something happened within her, something shifted. Then all of a sudden she was perceiving everything the same, meaning the perception was there, but the way she was looking at it was no longer there. It's like all of a sudden the mind shifted to a way of being that she have never experienced. So in her book she called it the thing. So when this thing took over, see? So 2 weeks later, her only son, 19-year-old kid, dies in a car accident. And of course she wasn't celebrating or saying that she was so happy about it, but in that shift in mentality, she knew who she was, she knew who he was. She knew that this is all a play, you see? Her family thought that she was trying to suppress feelings, or she didn't want to deal with the feelings, because people couldn't possibly fathom the possibility that someone who loses their only child all of a sudden can be as at peace as anyone you could probably imagine, right? So they even asked her to go to see a psychiatrist, and she just pleasing the family. She went ahead and saw this man, and even the psychiatrist says, look, I can't help you because she was so at peace. She was the peace that is transmitted through her, and this is what people began to notice about her, and that's why this lady interviewed her and wrote this book. I think Silence Heals or something like that. I'll put the cover on this screen so you can see it. So that's an example that what we're talking about here is not esoteric. This is actually very practical. That's why the last book that I wrote, What is Prior to or Before Any Thought? Because this is what we're pointing to, you see, before any thought, all that there is what is. And then when we're identified with thoughts, that's when grieving and suffering comes in. But when I know who I am, which is what we're pointing to always, any situation, call it a bankruptcy, calling a loss of a lost one, call it a breakup of a relationship, call it a government doing whatever it's doing, call it whatever, it cannot have an effect on what I am, you see? What you are prior to any or before any thought simply is, and this is what we're pointing to. And once again, that does not have any problems, you see? Because problems always are conceptual, but the essence, what is, it's always being. Like when you're dreaming, like when you're at bed at night. When you're in bed, there's no problems. You can dream of problems and you can think that you're dealing with them and grieving and all that stuff, but that is only because you're identified with the content of the mind. But if you become conscious, you're dreaming, that's what is referred to as a lucid dreaming. You're no longer affected by the content of the mind. Well, that is happening here too. This is a lucid dream. We believed in the dream because we believe in the thoughts. You see, if we stop believing the thoughts, then the dream has no effect on us. And even if the mind is trying to throw curves, yeah, but that means that if I don't grieve the loved one, that means I don't love them or something. These are thoughts, evaluations that we have bought into, you see. It's not that you don't care, but I've heard someone says that you don't mind. You see, the mind is not engaged. The love is still there. You will not stop loving, or doesn't mean that you're less loving because you don't follow the rules of etiquette, that they said you should suffer, you should feel sad. As a matter of fact, if you live very happily and at peace, most people may not understand it, because they think that you're not behaving the way we're supposed to behave. You're supposed to behave like this when this happens. No, this is your thinking telling you how to behave, and because you never question the thinking, you're believing it, you see? And the consequence is the experience you're having, or the person is having, by believing their thinking, you see? Again, we're not here trying to, this is not positive thinking, by the way, because even positive thinking is still thinking, you see? And this is not about not thinking either, because again, you cannot not think. This is about looking at the thinking, which is very different. When you look at the thinking without believing it, it's no problem. When you look at the thinking and believe it, that's when the problem comes in. And when someone leaves your life, whether it's because the death of a body, the disappearance of the body, or someone leaves the relationship, thinking is what interprets, and the consequence of that is what you're feeling. But what if you know who you are? When you know who you are, you must know what everything is. And then it's just a field of ever-present awareness, which is all that there is. And life is movement. Today you're with someone, tomorrow you're not with that person, or with that, I don't know, whatever the case may be. But you're always present, you're always resting in the presence, in presence itself, which is what these videos are pointing to, you see? So if you were to be dealing with the loss of a loved one, for example, and you're in a lot of grieving, I am not here to suggest you should or should not feel that way. Not at all, please. I want to make sure this is very understood. What I'm pointing at, if maybe if you're ready, willing, and open, notice, at least just notice, how all the suffering is happening because you're identified with the concept in the mind. But in the end, if you rest in what is and you allow it to be, life itself takes care of the movement, and you can have the immediate peace that we're pointing to here. And because of habit, of identified with the suffering identity, well, it seems as though it's difficult, but it is not. It's that we're so used to feeling in a particular way, we believe that this is who we are, But now, if you're open, this is the little crack that, the crack that I'm saying. Just look through that little crack, open up, just like when you open the door a little bit, well, let the light come in, and then eventually the door will swing open completely, because you'll be attracted to the light. Before, you didn't even know the light was there, because you are the light, you see. So now you allow it to come in a little bit, and you begin to experience the warmth and the clarity of the light, even if it's for a little bit. And then you notice that there's a tendency, you want more. Well, that's the piece we're talking about here. The more, when someone is ready for this, the more we begin to experience that sense of peace, the more we want it. And again, at the beginning, I said again, there seems to be a transition process, because I'm so used to the suffering that I think this is what I am. This is the pain, drama is the nature of life. That's how life is. And that's not true. This is a lie we have believed that is constructed on thoughts. Without the thoughts, the lie cannot sustain itself, because lie is a thought, but truth is no thought. Truth is. See the difference? I've heard this story by Alan Watts. I love that story, about a fish that he was looking for the water and he couldn't find it, and he'd ask everybody, Where is the water? Because the fish thought that the water was something special, which is what we do with enlightenment. We think that enlightenment is something special, something, when really reality is just not believing the content of the mind. That's all there is to it. So you are enlightened right now by the nature of who you are, but believing the content of the mind, even believing that you will become enlightened, which is a thought, is overlooking the fact that you already are, you see. So the fish is looking and he couldn't find the water. So when he asked all the fish, all of them would say, they would laugh at him. They said, what are you talking about? You're swimming in it. And he says, no, the water, this is the normal thing, you see. It's so used to swimming in it that he thinks that water is something special. Says, no, this is normal. This is life. No. Where is the water? What? And they kept laughing and they kept trying to tell him, but he couldn't listen, because he was so identified with the content of its mind, as if the fish could think, right? So the fish keeps swimming through rivers and through oceans, through everything, trying to find the water, overlooking the fact that it's always swimming in it. And the only reason why the fish could not be conscious of it is because of thinking, because believing it's thinking, not because of thinking. Thinking can be there. When you know that you are, the fish could have the thought, hey, I wonder what water looks like. And then the fish could go, oh, that's a stupid thought. It's just a thought. I know that water is, I'm surrounded, but I'm swimming in it. But he could not conceive of the possibility that he was swimming in it because he was identified with his thoughts. Well, same here. How can you consider the possibility of being at peace and happy even when someone has made a transition, if you still believe in the thoughts that tells you you should not be happy, you should be grieving because that person made a transition? But once again, because you believe who you are, and if you believe who you are, you believe that there's a person, and consequently that person is lost, you'll never be in touch with that person, when the truth is that in essence you can never be apart from that person, because there's no such thing as a person, just energy, and you are that energy. And right now, you think you're interacting with me, but I'm a figure. You see, I'm an image in a camera, non-existent. In that case, go ahead and put a video of that person that you lost, and you can still enjoy it as if you're talking, as if you're in the presence of that person, you know. Same thing if you close your eyes and think about that person. That thought is exactly, or you say that memory, you see, is part of the energy field. The difference is that before you could hold the person close, you know, with body-wise, you could feel the body, but now you may not feel the body, but you can sense, because the energy, see, it's the same. Nobody dies in the same way that nobody's born. We're all the same energy that seems to be taking shapes and forms, and we believe the form, we believe the shape because we believe the thoughts. But if you stop believing the thoughts, then the essence, that person now is closer to you than ever, because that person is you. The problem is you label it a person because you have labeled yourself a person, you see. And if you believe to be a person, you will experience the dynamic of thinking that you can lose someone or you can gain someone. But when you know who you are, when you know what you are, when you know that you are, put it this way, then life is. And yes, in the movement of energy, it seems as though sometimes some people will appear in your life, some people will disappear from your life, but you, which is what you are, remains, in other words, remain at peace with what is, because you are that peace. You're not experiencing peace. You are that peace. You are that life. You are that love. You are that ever-presence, omnipresence, whatever that is that people call it, God, love, oneness. But in reality, don't give it any name, because if you give it any name, you have denied it. You simply are. Let's put it to the test right now, like you always do in these videos. Right now, right this moment, if you have dealt with the loss of a lost one, or if you have dealt with the, I don't know, loss, disappearance, the no longer the presence of a loved one, I'm not here to deny anything. I'm just giving you an opportunity to have the direct experience that there's another way of living, and this is what we're going to do right now, if you're open to it, okay? Right now, Don't identify with any thought. I didn't say don't think, because it just makes no sense. Thoughts will appear. That's just the way it is. Don't believe any of them. Even the stories that the mind is trying to tell you about anything, about the person or whatever the case may be. Just be. Right now, just for the moment, just be. Just be. Don't identify with any of the thoughts. And when I say just be, it doesn't even make sense, because you cannot not be, you see? But I'm just pointing to the obviousness of this moment. Right now. Beingness. See, this is what you are. Not conceptually. Don't try to think, oh, I feel that I'm being. No, that's still concepts. I'm talking about the experience, direct experience right now of beingness. This is it. This is what we're pointing to always. Don't identify with any thoughts. Don't believe any thoughts right now. Just be right now. Just being, okay? This is presence, ever-present beingness. Even if there may be bodily sensations or whatever, it does not matter. Just be. Even if the mind is trying to go crazy, which probably it will at the beginning, because I mean it's not used to, it's like defending the sense of identity. But right now, just be. This is not a meditation. Be careful here. This is not something you're going to do 20 minutes a day or something. No, this is your life. I'm pointing to the obvious right now. Right now. Just be. And I'm going to ask you a few questions while you're being, okay? Which you are always anyway. You're always being. But again, just for the sake of this exercise, if this is something or new information for you, right now, just be. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Question number 1. While you're being, as you are being, do you have any problems? Notice that if you go to the mind will tell you, yeah, I have this problem. No, you're missing the mark again. Right now you're being. I'm pointing to the obvious. You're being. Okay? Do you have any problems? And the answer has to be no. Right this moment, just being. Just being. Now let me ask you the second question. Can you not be? And the answer is obvious. Of course I cannot not be. I am being. See, that's what we're pointing to. The more you want this experience, the more the floodgate is open for beingness to rapt you. Because it's rapting itself anyway. When this is something that you want, when you desire this more than anything else, this message is very crystal clear. It's just obvious. But if you still want the world of illusions, if you still want the whatever the case may be, well, I can understand why this message may be very difficult or impossible. Because what we are letting go of our sense of identity, what we believe that we are, that you who believe yourself to be is the one grieving and the one in pain and the one suffering. But when you know who you are, once again, all the movements of energy that may take the form of what before you could label it, sadness or anger or fear, whatever, they're just movements. You see, different textures of the same energy field, which is what you are. That energy field is what is referred to as love. You see, love is not needy, and love doesn't want anything. Love is you are, I am, end of story. So now just be and trust. Don't try to fight it, don't try to resolve it, because that is still the mind trying to undo itself, and it will not do that. Ramana Maharshi used to say, asking the mind for help is like asking the thief to become the police officer, and it's going to follow you forever. So we're not trying to get in the mind or trying to listen to the mind. I'm just simply relaxing it. Right now, just relax it. You see? And the more this is appreciated, it's not that your life is not going to be dynamic. You're still going to do things in life, and sometimes may require a lot of dynamism and sometimes may not. But whatever you do, or better yet, whatever you find yourself doing will come from that space, you see. It's not like you're going to be now in this blossomy bliss space for the rest of your life. No, that's not what we're talking about here. The dynamic, the human experience is dynamic, it's dual. So we're going to have pain, we're going to have pleasure. And that's the way it is. We're going to have all sorts of feelings, sensations, and all people come in, people will walk out. All of that stuff is going to happen as the human experience, but now you are transcending that by knowing who you are. Now you know that you are not this human being, you are being, you see? And the way you deal with life experiences is going to be very different, because now you're conscious, and that's what you experience as consequence of that, what is referred to as the peace that passes all understanding. Not the peace that happens or takes place when things are going my way. No, the peace that passes all understanding. Why? Because I know what I am. You don't try to explain this to anybody, it would make no sense, because that keep reinforcing the belief in this seeming you. But if somebody would ask you for whatever the reason is, you may find yourself sharing, but the sharing is not coming from you, it's coming through you. See, like this sharing right now, these words are simply expressing through this instrument. I'm just an instrument like you are. And in this play called the human experience, this instrument is playing the role of someone who's sharing some information. But I'm completely aware, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that I am. You see? And that's what we're pointing to. And notice what is the direct experience when you rest in the I am, which is your ever-present, always direct experience. Never changes. The I am never changes. Things will change. I mean, things, thoughts, feelings, situations, sensations, all of that changes, but that's movement. But all that seems to be happening in the I am. We're pointing to the I am. And the I am cannot be shaken by anything. You see? And now when a thought of that person that you feel that you have lost comes through, now you're not grieving or you're not suffering, but you're rejoicing in sensing the presence of that I am in what seems to be this other person that supposedly has left, but in reality, yeah, the body may not be there, but the essence remains, and the essence is eternal, and that's what you are. This is the I am we're pointing to here. So just be. Just be. That's it. This is very simple. This is very obvious. You're always being. The problem is you think or you believe the thought that says I am being someone. You see? You're being. Always. Rest in beingness. I'm inviting you to rest in what you are. It is not a future thing. I'm just pointing to what is. Right now, if you don't identify with any thought, what is left, what is. It's not an answer you can give me, but it's a direct experience. And consequently, you experience the peace that passes all understanding, the eternal happiness that is being searched for our whole life through chasing things, because we believe the thought that said those things or those experiences are going to make me feel the way I want to feel, and yet now you are experiencing it directly. You are experiencing the peace this is pointing to. This is always, this is presence, this is eternal, and this is what you are. And well, that was the inspiration that came through this instrument. I hope it helped. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.